Who wins between Sukuna and the top 3 strongest people in Jujutsu Kaisen outside of Gojo, which would be Kashimo, Yuta, and Kenjaku. And Don C, huge shout out to you for the sponsored video. Now let's get it. This is again one of those instances where the gap between Sukuna and Gojo and everybody else within the verse is just simply way too big. Sukuna would absolutely destroy all 3 of them all at once. Even though Kashimo does have an anti-domain technique and both Yuta and Kenjaku have their own domain expansions, it's a pretty safe assumption to go ahead and say that Sukuna's domain expansion far exceeds both Yuta and Kenjaku's, and even though Hollow Wicker Basket could help hold off his domain expansion, the moment Sukuna actually starts to pound on Kashimo, it's not going to stay up for very long. Now let's assume whenever it says refreshed 4-armed Sukuna, that this is actually just the Sukuna without the domain expansion who just healed. The same one that waffled Kashimo. He would still win because the speed and power difference would be far too immense. For one, we already know that he can sit there and tank something like Jacob's Ladder at maximum output whenever its Hollow Wicker Basket isn't up. And if he's completely refreshed, not tired whatsoever, then he could actually just use the World Cutting Slash fairly easily with 4 arms and 2 mouths. Which means even if he couldn't use the domain expansion, regular cleaves and dismantles would also still do a decent amount of damage. As we know, the net-like dismantle that Kashimo actually took on wasn't the World Cutting Slash, and yet it was still able to waffle him. Which means he could do a similar attack to cover a wide range to possibly hit all 3 of them while keeping Hollow Wicker Basket up and using his other 2 hands to throw out regular enhanced dismantles. And since we know that Kenjaku wouldn't dare fight Gojo because he knew that Gojo would win, and Sukuna is able to defeat Gojo, we definitely know that Kenjaku cannot take on Sukuna either. Keep in mind also, when Kashimo was old and withering away and Kenjaku was in a fresh body, he still didn't want any smoke from Kashimo. And yet Sukuna destroyed a prime Kashimo in his curse technique form with 0 effort. Yet again, just further cementing the fact that Sukuna is leagues above everybody else except for Gojo. Still above Gojo, yes, but maybe not so much leagues above.